It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Onyx News. We are here this Friday evening, and I'm your host, Margie K. As usual, we have a very interesting show for you this evening. And I do want to mention that we've got a lot going on here at the X. And one of the things we've been working on are a series of workshops. They're on various subjects that I think you'll find very interesting. We've got a brand new one that we've just added to the mix, and it is about herbal medicine. And that is by Kimberly K.C. Crail. She's the host of Weeds of Wisdom right here on the X. So please do check that out. And we have some other new ones coming soon, including a live brand new workshop that will be on July 19th. So please watch your newsletter for that. You'll see more information, and please join us. So that will be a live event next week. My guest this evening is Michael Brein. I hope I did not destroy your last name. AKA the Travel Psychologist, is an author, lecturer, travel storyteller, adventurer, and publisher of travel books and guides. He regularly appears in newspapers, magazines, blogs, and radio programs on the psychology of travel. Michael is the first to coin the term travel psychology. As such, through his doctoral studies, work, and life experiences and world travel, he has become the world's first and perhaps only travel psychologist. Through his monthly magazine, Travel Tales Monthly, and the Travel Psychologist Travel Tales series, Michael regularly publishes the best travel tales of just about 1,750 world travelers and adventurers that he has interviewed during the last 4 decades of his own travels to more than 125 countries. Welcome to the program, Michael.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Did I destroy your last name pronunciation?
To tell you the truth, my last name is pronounced Brian like lion, and I'm telling the truth.
Okay. Michael Brein, I am so sorry about that. I actually had you on the program 2 years ago, and in between times, I forgot that. So thank you for joining me again. You've got, as usual, more books. How many books have you written, by the way?
I have to count them once in a while, just about 3 dozen, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, there were too many to count on your website and other sites. And so you do have a big interest in strange things. How did that start out for you? Why did you get interested in the paranormal and odd things?
Ever since I was a baby, I've had unusual things happen in my life. I just really remember lying in a crib one night. I think I must have had a fever, and I was looking up at my window, the Venetian blinds in my room, and I saw a little green elf come through the Venetian blinds and go into my toy closet. And I've never seen anything like that before, and never seen anything since. Now I wonder, years and years later, could that have been an alien, or was it an elf? I don't know for sure. But and another time, growing up, little kid, I must have had this little kit called Madame Blavatsky's Psychic, whatever it was. And I know it was in there with my toys and stuff. And one day I looked in there and it was gone. So I think my mother wanted to dispense with it post haste into the trash. But nobody could squelch my interest. As a teenager, I saw that either was a Look magazine or Life magazine. Remember that picture of a UFO kind of swooping over the sky somewhere in the West? And I
I
read
do.
that article, and I've been riveted to the subject ever since. Not the least of which is I have had more than my fair share of paranormal type events. Now, I have not had direct UFO events, but I began a serious interest in that. Got involved with MUFON, played the role of the state director for Hawaii for years with MUFON, and Walt Andrus actually had appointed me as ambassador at large. Sounds like a really amazing title, but I was doing a lot of traveling, and I was visiting people overseas, and I even got pulled into giving a lecture in what's that little country in northern Italy? God, I can't think of it. Where the mouse that roared was.
Oh, Northern Italy. Hmm.
Anyway, it's its own country, and
Okay.
there were a lot of great speakers on that occasion that I happened to be there, and there was John Mack talking and Stanton Friedman,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the famous people from the past. Anyway, I traveled a
So,
lot, interviewed people all over, said nice things about MUFON in my travels around the world, gone to hundreds of conferences, symposia, and conferences.
you mentioned some paranormal experiences. Would you like to share one with us that stands out?
Yeah. Well, the heavier parts of that is I knew when the days when both my parents had passed away, become aware of things like that. I've had that. I've had, and we'll talk more about it as we go on. I've had numerous synchronicities, way more than my share. I've had instances of telepathy where not only were people saying I was guessing correctly what they were thinking, but they were guessing together what I was thinking as well. So you had that joint thing going on.
Mm.
Well, that's interesting. I think I can accept that as probably being valid and true and credible. Um, Premonitions while traveling in a couple of cases, where, for example, I was had parked my Volkswagen bus in downtown in the suburbs of Barcelona, and I was going back on the train to get back to my van, and I just had this horrible premonition, which got worse and worse and worse. I was fearful, so it was out of the ordinary. I got to my van, and I was walking along the street and saw broken glass, and somebody had tried to break into the van, and an older Spanish couple came up to me and said, "Your alarm on your car was ringing for 3 hours." They saw
Oh,
the thieves jump back in the car, got nothing. I got a dead battery, but that was definitely such a strong experience so out of the ordinary that
hmm.
oddly enough, maybe other people feel the same type of experience. Very often an experience is a paranormal one because of the strength of it, how it affects you, your reaction. It's
Hmm.
qualitatively different from other kinds of experiences. So I've had a lifetime of this sort of thing.
It seems that people who experience the paranormal have indeed experienced it their entire life, as I have. And we also seem to attract each other, for lack of a better word for that. It seems that, you meet a stranger and you just happen to mention one thing, and yeah, they're into the same thing, and they've had many of the experiences that you have, such as seeing spirits. Have you seen ghosts or spirits?
I had an
Mm.
interesting experience along the Rhine River in Dusseldorf, Germany. I was teaching
Mm.
for the University of Maryland in Europe on U.S. military installations. A German couple who we befriended each other invited me to come visit. I was going to do a jog along the riverbank and then come there in the morning, meet them for breakfast. It was nice. During the night, I had this auditory, the best word I can say is an auditory hallucination, where I heard a chorus of voices, sad, deeply sad, and riveting, and I could not attribute it to any external sound coming into the bus, VW bus. It was not coming from my mind, and I
Mhm.
was deeply moved by this. In the morning, I was out jogging along the riverbank, and I would say no more than 100 yards or so was a cemetery, a Holocaust cemetery.
Oh,
I picked
oh,
on the voices of people mourning, mourning.
right.
Their explanation for it was like souls gathered there, and it was a very moving experience. So I forget how we led into that, but
Wow.
yes, just one of a variety.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's called clairaudient experiences,
Yes, that
or
is what it's called.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I thought that
Mhm.
was interesting to come across a cemetery very close to where I was. I attribute my experience to that cemetery. And of course, I've heard other
Sure.
people in my interviews of that number is up now from 600 to approximately 2,000 interviews over 4 to 5 decades, as an update to that. So I basically have done my own personal research and writing on the basis of asking people about their experiences as personal stories or personal memoirs.
Uh-huh.
That's my way of researching for the various books I've written and I'm writing.
Now your PhD, did you design your own degree, when you went to school? Because I'd never heard of a degree in travel psychology before.
Well, you have zeroed in on an amazing experience I had. I want to share this because I'm sure a lot of people in the audience have had varying degrees of involvement in master's degrees, PhDs, bachelor's degrees. I went to the University of Hawaii to do my PhD, and I had been bitten by the travel bug before that. Now, I walked away from, ready for this, a full fellowship. If I had stayed at Temple University in Philadelphia and done this, I would have had good federal money, which is probably evaporating now as we speak. But so I was there during the summer working for the Hawaii Visitors Bureau to get some experience in tourism and Hawaii travel. And here's day one of graduate school. Meet the faculty. So they have all these faculty members sitting around a big round table, and one little graduate student at a time coming in, meek and humble, and sitting down in a chair, and all these eyes staring at you. Well, it was my turn, and these two animal psychologists, I call them rat psychologists, were
Oh,
the ones to question me. And they said, "What are you here for? Why are you here? What are you going to study?" And I said, now picture this. I went through the bachelor's degree and the master's degree in the traditional psychology department, which is social science oriented and no nonsense and stick with the program type thing. And they said, well, what are you studying? Why are you here? And I looked up at them. I said, I'm here to study the psychology of travel. Silence in the room, Margie.
yeah.
You could hear a pin drop. Silence, all eyes upon me. And then
Oh my.
imagine this. I think I stood up and I think I pointed at, said, number one, who are you to define what this field is about? And number two, if that's your attitude, I don't think I want to be here. And I walked out of the room towards the front door of the building, thinking to myself,
Oh,
boy, you sure did. You did it this time. Oh,
oh yeah.
brilliant stroke. And then I hear running feet behind me, other faculty members, two of them running down, hand on the shoulder, stopping me, saying, just because they said that doesn't mean the rest of us agree with them. Get yourself back into the room.
Oh.
What an experience that was. And I never had anything to do with the other two of these people ever again. Never had any interaction with them in my 4 or 5 years there. In fact, one of them was disliked so much by his own graduate students that they released his research dolphins into the Pacific Ocean, which is terrible
Ooh.
to do. Yeah, I know, terrible. They disliked him so much. And I stood to my guns and basically got the degree in social psychology. But I concentrated on subjects that had to do with international travel and international behavior, and taught courses. For example, worked for the University of Hawaii's Peace Corps training program, took the language course with the trainees, learned about how to adjust and adapt to live overseas, and so on and so forth. So I made that into a little sub discipline, and I've been involved with it ever since. Figuring the best way to find out about the psychology of travel is to ask people. So I did what Forrest Gump would have done. I interviewed a couple thousand people, and
Yeah.
that's the basis of my own personal research.
Well, we are going to talk about synchronicities this evening. We will get to that. But on the travel subject, I was interested in that because I've done quite a bit of travel myself, and it's different. It is totally different when you leave your home, especially when you leave your home country. It is a culture shock
Yes.
when you arrive, and you have people telling you that you're not behaving correctly, or that you're rude because you asked for bread in a restaurant because you only are supposed to have one piece of bread until they get to you in 30 minutes or so. Uh, and that, and then the living conditions, they're always different, and sometimes they're horrible. I've seen some things that, in Jamaica that I couldn't believe, little shanty towns and things that you're just not exposed to in your home environment, and it is a shock. So psychologically, what does that do to us?
I think uh, traveling is the fastest way that we learn about life. And I joke around. I say, you think it's a big American custom, American and Canada and Western, is to send your kids to Europe for a summer or
Uh,
to college for a semester.
mhm.
Why? Because we know deep down they're going to grow, they're going to learn, they're going to mature, they're going to learn how to deal with life in a relatively safe way. And so I discovered it shouldn't be an amazing surprise to learn this, but I discovered the fastest and most rewarding way that we learn, learning theory, psychological learning theory, is while traveling overseas when we're so much more eager and receptive of novelty.
Ah,
Here's the
that
thing,
makes sense.
rewards when you found something on the menu you could eat, when you actually wound up having a roof over your head for the night. Think about how immensely rewarding that is the first time you succeed and do something and have success. Well, traveling is so rewarding that you learn in the fastest, quickest, most amazing way, and most of it's good. So most of it is exciting. Abraham Maslow's needs hierarchy. We all had that in beginning psychology 101. You have the pyramid. On the bottom is personal safety and security, and you move up, being
Right.
liked, having relationships with people, love, and all the way at the top is achievement, uh,
Mm.
becoming all that you can be. So, most of us know the example of mountain climbers who are climbing all the continents, all the mountains, and all the continents. They're all
Mhm.
why? Because it's so exhilarating to be rewarded with the success of being more of who you want to be. So, I have never found a better way to learn and a more fun way to learn. And I think that's what we do. I think that's a lot of what we do in travel. I call it the Western walkabout, after. No, seriously,
Yeah.
when we send our kids overseas, we're sending them out to their Western walkabout. Well, we don't say that to them.
Just like,
And look,
right.
let me just tell you this. All right. I wrote a very serious book, Travel Tales, Women Alone, the Me Too of Travel, because I had to try to help women travelers be safer.
And that is a good thing. Yeah, women do need to know that. A lot of women just take off willy-nilly. Yeah, I'm going to go do this by myself. My niece was one of those. She was 19 years old and traveled Europe. And then when she was 20, she went to Africa on her own. And oh my gosh, some of the things that she told me, situations she was in, very, very dangerous. And she did not know any self-defense even. So what do you tell women who are going to plan to travel alone?
She did okay ultimately.
She did, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I've had a lot of stories told to me about that very thing. Yeah. So
Do you
that's
have some
right.
suggestions for women to make them safer?
Number one is don't travel to those areas of the world alone. It's better to be with someone or a small group. Uh, that's the number one thing. And I wouldn't try some of this super adventurous travel without a few years under one's belt of regular getting more experience, turning into the traveler from the tourist, morphing from a tourist into a traveler who has dealt with more situations and realized that it's not always the way you behave back at home that you succeed to be safe and secure in
Mhm.
travel. But the bad things are fewer and far in between, but the potential is that we can all have an occasional dangerous experience if we're not careful. You have to learn, you have to be sensible and not do super dangerous things at the outset when you don't have enough personal experience. That would be my simple advice.
That is good advice for anyone actually.
Sure.
And it, yeah, it's unfortunate that there are bad people in the world, but we do have to be aware of that fact. They're not all good. We were well, I had a few things happen on our travels, and also family members have as well. Where wherever we are, especially France, for some reason, the French seem to hate the Americans. Uh, why is it that people in other countries don't like visitors, tourists? It seems to be just across the board. Why do you think that is?
Well, the problem is of late over tourism. Maybe some
Mm.
people have been seeing a very unpleasant example of some things that were going on in Barcelona. What some of the locals were doing, and I've been to Barcelona, like I told at the outset of our interview, and Barcelona doesn't have uh, as much tourism of interest for tourists as some other places. So some of the areas of Barcelona are getting absolutely overrun with people from higher socioeconomic statuses. They earn more money, they have more money to spend, and they're outspending locals and they're causing prices to rise to some extent. So, what some people at Barcelona have been doing, which is terrible, is squirting visitors with water pistols. Not hurting anybody, but it's so
Oh,
unfriendly and embarrassing. Nobody's getting hurt, but who wants to be shot with a water pistol? Well, we have to learn to be good travelers too, to some extent. But when you have so many travelers and so much over tourism, you're going to get some bad feelings. And it's good to try to avoid being in a huge mass of tourists. wherever you're going. Everybody knows that picture of people climbing Mount Everest with a long line of people walking
Yes.
to the top? Oh my God. Well, now Nepal is requiring proof in the form of some kind of certificate that you've successfully climbed another mountain somewhere else before you're going to go into this dangerous area unprepared to mountain
Oh,
climb properly. But
well, that's not a bad idea.
yeah, that's true. Improvement has to come from all sides. From we, the visitors, we have to be more sensitive to what can happen by overwhelming the local areas. It's the same thing. You go into the wilderness, you
Mhm.
observe animals and plants and various species, and if your presence is so disturbing, well, it ruins it for the native species, and it ruins your experience. So we have to learn to be good travelers, and we have to learn how to morph from a tourist with very little experience
Mhm.
to a traveler who is a seasoned person and learns from his or her interactions with people overseas.
Okay. That's good advice, and we will take a short break and be back right after this.
The Onyx Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Unnext Network website at unnextnetwork.com. That's unnextnetwork.com. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unxmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unxmedia.com or amazon.com.
We are back with the next news. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and this evening we are talking with Michael Brein about various subjects. But right now, I would like to get to your book, The Road to Strange Synchronicity, Meaningful Coincidences. This really caught my eye, Michael. What gave you the idea for this book?
I have, as I was mentioning earlier, collected tales in a whole range of paranormal subject areas. Uh,
Mhm.
Synchronicity, especially because so many people have so many stories of quote unquote meaningful coincidences happening to them. But remember, I had mentioned earlier that I focused in on in one of my books on people that have had multiple experiences of different sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have had not only more than my share of pairs of coincidences or synchronicities, things that you laugh at, you think it's cute. Oh, you ran into this person in another city, and yeah, and you laugh and you think, oh, that's kind of neat. But when you have intertwined like three things that happen together, I had a quintuple synchronicity, like a 5-part experience, any 2 parts of which were unbelievable in and of themselves. What do you do with the handful of components, any 2 of which were unbelievably unlikely to happen by chance, but you have the whole package of it happening?
Wow.
I can tell that experience.
Well, yes, I would love to hear that experience.
Okay. At one point in time, I had a travel guide series. So remember, I was mentioning Barcelona. I did a travel guide series to sightseeing by public transportation, how to go to the top 50 visitor attractions using public transit. Very good thing to do. And that's how that Barcelona story happened. Well, I had a bunch of these. I was living in Southern Oregon, had a llama ranch at the time. I was going to the book fair in New York City, round trip, Medford, Oregon to Philadelphia, New York, and then back again. I was on United Airlines. Last days of May, stopped by in Philadelphia, visit my sister and her family, and took the train to New York City for the book fair. On the train, I happened to glance out the window. There's a sign, Rahway, New Jersey. And I thought to myself, as we always do when we go past places, I know somebody from Rahway, New Jersey. 42 years earlier, when I did 1 year of engineering at Carnegie Mellon, and this was a senior, and I remember meeting a guy from Rahway, New Jersey. That was item number 1. I go to the book fair. Oh, I had grabbed a Hemisphere magazine out of the pocket of United Airlines, thinking, why don't I contact United and say, hey, I do a thing on public transit. How about maybe a write-up in your magazine? I put it away, didn't look at it. Do the book fair, get back. Now it's June, end of May, June. I'm going back to Medford, Ashland, Oregon. I pick up the June issue of Hemisphere and put that in my attaché. So I've now got 2 magazines. Want to contact United, talk to them about it, and didn't even look at them, put them in the attaché case, went home, entered the door back in Ashland, into the kitchen, piles of mail there, grab a big envelope the size of 8.5 by 11, Hemisphere magazine, June issue, staple business card to it, see page 24, open it up. There's a review of my travel guides right in that magazine. The one that I picked up the magazine in the first place for. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Well, I thought, oh wow.
They had already done it and didn't even contact you?
Well, this is the way to tell me. Send me a magazine. They sent me a same copy of magazine that had my attaché case. I thought, well, this is interesting, but wait, it gets worse or better. All right. Now I go up to my little loft office to see, did I have any orders for these travel guides? I had 14 of them around the world. And I go up to my loft office and look to see orders. And sometimes I get an order from Spain or Ohio or Texas or Mexico for a copy of this or that. Here's an order from Ashland, Oregon, up the street.
Oh, I know what's coming.
Never happened. I email the person back. I said, would you like me to personally deliver these to you by hand? Or would you like to come and see a llama ranch?
Oh.
And they said, we'll come and see the llama ranch. All right. I look at the name. The name is the same person from Rahway, New Jersey.
Yes.
I remembered 42 years earlier. I emailed this lady back again. I said, do you have by any remote possible chance a person by the name of Jan, Jan, Chaiken, Chaiken, which was his name? The phone rings. I recognize the voice. I recognize his voice. I didn't know him that well. I only talked to him 2 or 3 times. I sang to him the fraternity song. I'll sing one bar of it. For
Okay.
water, water, water that makes you feel you oughter in the halls, in the halls. I better leave it at that.
Okay.
I said to him, "Did you ever sing that song?" He said, "No, I never sang that song." Anyway, that was the Jan Chaiken from Rahway, New Jersey, who bought my travel guides in the magazine that I wanted them to go into later. I said, "How did you happen to see my guides?" "Oh, we saw it in the Hemispheres magazine, and we compile transit statistics, crime statistics for the New York subway system." So they came over. We had a really nice, wonderful time. We all shook our heads on this multiple, involved, complicated synchronicity, and wondered, and I kept wondering before as after, how does synchronicity work? What is going on? What is with
Yeah.
synchronicity? And why did I have uh, multiple synchronicities more than just a chance of 2 things happening? Why do I have a lot of this happening and complex ones? So that's an example of a quintuple synchronicity. Now, most of the listeners in the audience, most of us have had the simple synchronicities. And we all, what we're left with often, I think, is a simple message: pay attention. The universe can do this. Well,
Indeed.
and it does.
Hmm.
I mean, it's one thing to have a lot of regular coincidences happen. It's another to have more complex ones happen. And I have had a number of complex ones. So the message to me is pay attention. There's another operating principle in the universe, to understand that it does things, it has its workings. Now, so it doesn't surprise me so much when I hear about the occasional person who wins 2 or 3 lotteries. We've all heard of
Right.
a lot,
Right.
not only once, but maybe twice. And people that get struck by lightning, that's not such a good thing. But so
Over and over again.
take a look in these little books I'm doing. I call them shorter take books, with 65 to 100 pages. I like to take some of the paranormal subjects and look at some of the stories that people have shared with me on those little topics and put them in their own books. Well, I just came out with one which is fascinating to me, called The Road to Strange Macumba and Other Rites. And now Macumba is not necessarily a bad thing. It is like voodoo is often thought of as a religion as well as something that has its scarier, spookier parts. But I use the word Macumba to mean uh, rites and rituals that come from religious traditions, maybe between Africa and Brazil and other exotic countries where people from one country have moved to another. And there are mostly religious and spiritual practices that are common, to get healthier and stay healthier and all these things. But I've looked at the stories of where people have shared with me certain things. Now, some of the stories are a little scary. For example, an ER doctor friend of mine who worked on an Apache reservation, helping citizens become healthier, government programs. And long story short, uh, he went out on a date, nothing serious, with a girl that was a niece of a woman that did not like the idea of her daughter dating outside of Apaches.
Okay.
And supposedly, she inflicted a curse on Dave. And
Mm.
Dave is a very spiritually and metaphysically oriented person with lots of experiences. And he's quoted vociferously throughout my books. And Dave discovered he felt that he had something negative placed upon him since he was a doctor helping people on this particular Apache reservation. There were other patients who were friends of his and helped him, and one supposedly, as the story goes, was able to reverse this unfortunate curse. And it's funny, Dr. Dave, a patient would come into the clinic and be randomly assigned to one of 5 doctors. Well, the woman the aunt who allegedly placed this spell on Dave for behaving the way she didn't like him to behave. Dave saw her, put his arm around her very nice and gently, and said, "You put a curse on me, didn't you?" Well,
Ooh.
all gone. Well, I mean, it's an interesting story, and a lot of my stories, most of my stories that I've gathered and collected, I feel there's a lot of credibility to at least aspects of them. Maybe not all totally acceptable in conventional terms, but this was a rite that happened in a practice that was righted, Righdted,
Mm-hmm.
and just interesting to focus on. In this case, the Macumba and other rites is to bring out some of these examples from the various interviews of this aspect. I haven't really seen much of this sort of thing anywhere else, but I'm now taking little sub aspects of various paranormal subjects and pulling out some nice examples. And here's what's exciting to me, Margie. I've been applying AI to come up with its own analyses, quote unquote, own, from my collection of transcribed interviews. So
Oh.
use a program called Otter, like the animal, OTTER.ai,
Uh-huh.
and taken my 2,000 or so interviews, transcribed them. Now I can do a keyword search. I can do a keyword search, ritual, ESP, anything I want to search, and it'll come up with all the stories that the keyword appeared in, and I can pull out stories because I can't keep them all in my head. And I can also, they added a feature of AI saying, do you want to ask AI a question about your materials? So I would say to AI, talk to AI as if it's a friend, tell me about synchronicity and or deja vu. This is another good example.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about deja vu. And it would say, Michael, addresses me, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Take a double take. Michael, I found a number of references to deja vu in your stories, and it would seem that there's these aspects A, B, C, and D of these different deja vu experiences that people have had. Blah 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 blah. So I take that, write that up where it's interesting and informative to some extent. Certainly, some new ideas. Have you delved with AI yet in your personal research? Paranormal?
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
you got to look into that because
Yeah.
that's interesting stuff. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of fear being expressed. Ooh, this is scary, but
It is. It is kind of scary, but it's fascinating too.
it's fascinating. I haven't seen anything negative or bad,
Right.
yet.
Right.
But
You brought up the deja vu subject. I was going to ask you about that to see if you had stories, tales from people or
there's a
yourself as well.
I just listed my book, but
Yeah.
let me say this, because I was pulling deja vu stories from my 2,000 interviews. I also came across, and I named them in French. I think the French should be thanked for deja vu, which has already been seen. I came
Right.
up with 2 other things. Ready? En avance vu, meaning seen in advance. I've had at least a couple of people that have claimed they had complete conversations that they thought of, which happened later, exactly as they recalled these. I call
Yeah.
it a future thing. And then I have the other one, en ensemble vous, which translates from French, together vous, where I've had people tell of experiences where other presences of other people are there and they're looking at one another and they're saying, what are you doing in my mental space, in my dream space? What are you doing here? Why am I in your space? As if they converged in the same space-time portal together for an interaction. I don't know whether it was intentionally the case or not, but it's fascinating to me. So I expanded the idea of deja vu a little bit more into
Mm.
other coincidentally seen appearances. Uh, Let me give you a quick example, a quick story. This was a woman who said that when she was a little girl in school in Okinawa, where her father was in the American military, she was at an American school and she was a little bit of a slower learner. And these kids were teasing her and pushed her into a closet and shut the closet on her. A terrible thing. And she said she saw in her mind's eye in that closet a World War II type of Japanese soldier, if you can picture what the Japanese soldiers looked like. And he was
Yeah.
looking at her and speaking Japanese as if to say to her, what are you doing here? Who are you? And she had the same type of experience. There was nothing harmful was going to happen. The soldier was bewildered and she was bewildered. And that was her story. And I had several other stories of that, of the appearances of people vis-a-vis one another, and they can't understand how they could be together in the same space-time portal. And I haven't come into
Yeah.
that. Have you ever run into that?
Well, I'll tell you what I have run into that's kind of similar to that, and that is different people having the exact same dream
Oh,
and then discussing it the next day, and everyone knows what's gonna happen next because they both had the same dream. How do
okay.
you think that happens?
I think that's related to what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, well, it reinforced, the whole notion of space-time portals is
Mhm.
relatively new, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't go that far back. We're hearing more and more of that sort of thing. People in a space-time distorted environment where different things happen. Well, maybe that's how people enter different space-time and come back. Maybe they find themselves. I keep thinking about, boy, I'll bet the Skinwalker Ranch. I'll bet they have stumbled onto space-time portal stuff in that spherical thing. Uh,
Absolutely.
so we're now
Absolutely.
moving in the direction of hearing and thinking more about these sorts of things. I don't remember talking about space-time portals years ago. This was not something that was in our common vernacular. So you and I are.
No, but more people are experiencing them, and as an investigator, I work with other investigators, and we are finding more portals. They're becoming more obvious, they are opening, it seems to me more often, and then we're now able with new equipment that's available, like, spectrum analyzers, things like that, where we can find 1.6 gigahertz when a portal is opening, and then right after we see a UFO fly through. There's evidence that this is real and it's happening. And I just wonder how long the government has known about this and how they've utilized them to the point that we would be stunned at what they're actually doing with it.
That's right, and ergo, why we're not hearing too much about it beyond a point, certain point. So that is fascinating. And so, is that something that's uh, gets the interest of ETs? because we're entering the age of discovery of such paranormal, now quote unquote paranormal things as space-time portal possibilities than we ever had before. And we probably hadn't had the slightest idea how you enter this and leave this. We're on the fine line of discovering and moving in this direction.
Oh, sure. I think so. We had a person from Kansas City several years ago, actually from Liberty, Missouri, north of Kansas City, became very famous. And he said he was a time traveler. He had invented a time machine. And then one day, he and his time machine were disappeared and have never been seen or heard from since.
Whoops.
So he left and didn't come back. It's pretty wild. Well, we are, golly, almost out of time, but I want to just throw a few of your books up here if you could tell us a little bit about each one.
Well, the taxis. Everybody's had a taxi experience, including me. And there's nothing like an intercultural experience, nothing more discombobulating at times as getting in a taxi and trying to figure out, will I ever walk out of this taxi somewhere else again? And will it be where I intended to go? Well, I have a lot of funny taxi stories. That's part of my series, True Travel Tales. And by the way, one of those books I feature very prominently in. It's called Travel Tales, Idiots Abroad, because I have more than my fair share of idiotic but funny, good, and educating experiences.
That sounds like a good one. I've had so many disastrous experiences while traveling, and the taxi one, I think, was the worst for me. So I will have to share that with you sometime. And then we've got The Road to Strange Deja Vu that we were talking about just a minute ago.
And there'll be more topics. This is
okay.
I did join
and Travel Tales of the Paranormal and Beyond.
Yeah, she was such a great person to work with and be a friend with, Rosemary. You met Rosemary probably a number.
Oh yeah, I knew her. She was very nice and this very busy.
Universe again is the one where I pull out stories of people who seem to have multiple repeat types of experiences with UFOs or the paranormal and supernatural stuff and ghosts and whatnot. That's that.
And how can people get your books?
They should go to if you could post this, it'd be so much easier. books2read.com / and my name, Michael-Brein, Brein. And you can read about them and see. And by the way, I'm now able to do audiobooks using AI because it's reasonably good and it sounds so human. And Draft to Digital, who I use to publish, maybe you have heard of it or haven't, it's a terrific self-publishing portal that costs nothing. They just share some of the revenue of their sales. Draft, the number 2 digital. Look into that.
I will look into that. I've been wanting to do that for me and my publishing company with a lot of authors and thinking about.
Why don't we talk person to person about that? Just a session, and I'll share with you about it because
I would love to. Yeah, I would appreciate that. So, The Road to Strange Synchronicity, Meaningful Coincidences by Michael-Brein. Thank you so much, Michael, for spending some time with us this evening. I appreciate it. And we will get together soon, and hopefully I'll have you come back sometime.
That'd be great.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, that is it for another edition of UNX News. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And as always, if you have questions, you can send me an email at kunxradio@gmail.com. You can also check my website out at margiek.com. And I will see you here again next week, of course.